All right, House of Payne fans, we're going to talk about last night's episode, Season 11, Episode 9, Woman to Woman. Now, to be honest, I thought this episode was pretty decent in some places, but if you ask me, I do feel like the weaknesses kind of came from CJ and Miranda. So I'm giving it a 6 out of 10, and of course, as always, I will explain why I'm going to give it this score. So with that being said, guys, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button to show you like the video. Follow me on social media, links are in the description below. Hit subscribe, and let's dive into last night's episode. So Lisa's freaking out playing a virtual reality game or VR game, and she's screaming so loudly that CJ can hear her from outside. He comes in and he doesn't buy virtual reality being that scary, but he puts the device on and, apparently he's getting attacked by a bear. But more to the point, we got Malik, he walked home from work due to the fact that he is, a bit distracted. He's trying to clear his mind because his boss gave him the task of coming up with some sort of fundraiser in order to raise money for low income individuals to pay their legal fees for petty or small crimes. Basically a fundraiser to help get money for those who can't pay legal fees, who are low level drug offenders. And this is where we get to the part where I don't really like CJ. I mean, to be completely honest, I haven't really liked how he's been, characterized in most of the reboot. And he really spends a majority of the episode looking down and casting judgment and making jokes about pretty much any individual who either possesses or uses drugs. And I guess the term is like a blanket statement, just saying that, them druggies and addicts and all, they need to get lawyers and whatnot. And I'm just sitting here like, because it didn't hit me until after I finished the episode. I'm like, wow, CJ, that's a lot of, pretty interesting language and slurs you're throwing around at people with drugs, because wasn't your wife an addict? So for him to be in this very judgmental, condescending role for the episode, I wasn't really with that. And not to mention, feel how you feel about raising money for people who have, broken the law in terms of drugs. Your son is just doing what his job asked him to do. And this is something I really love, because I feel like this is the first episode since Malik got the job that he applied for towards the end of season 10. This is like the first episode we see him actually working. And I like that. I really, really like that. But yeah, CJ was just insufferable because Malik was I wouldn't say downplaying it, but it was like, come on, Dad. It's like, these guys are just, they have like, one little bag, 1 gram or anything. It's not like they were kingpins or drug lords or anything. Oh, so breaking the law is cool. And it's like, that's why CJ is doing a good job representing the role he's meant to play, which is typically whenever the episodes deal with like, current events. There's going to be the older generation that's kind of set in their ways, where it's like, like once a criminal, always a criminal, or, it doesn't matter the size of the crime, we have to treat these people just like we would. We need to treat, a jaywalker in the same way we would like a mass murderer or something like that. It's just, again, the role played to a T, but I don't think CJ was the right person to put in the role in this episode regarding drug users. But yeah, I don't know, it just felt good to see Malik. What was it? I could be wrong now, but maybe it's just because he was dressed professionally. But I think Doc Shaw's slimming down a bit too. I don't really like to usually point out a character's appearance in terms like their body or like what they wear, unless it's like something like my favorite color, which is blue. But I just noticed that I'm like, hey, is Malik kind of slimming down from like the original series and whatnot, but it's just something I noticed. Nothing, no big deal. I mean, because what, he had his shoes off, because he's like, yeah, I walked home, to clear my mind. He had his computer out and everything. I just like that because it really shows like we're seeing progression in the character, and that's just what I ask for when it comes to these shows. All right, so enough of that. Let me go on to the next scene. All right, so Malik actually goes over to Curtis and Ellis to kind of talk about the situation. He's trying to get this fundraiser together. His plan is to get the permits to have like a fundraiser at the park sometime next month, and to get Uncle Curtis to be a food vendor there. And he had some jokes about addicts and whatnot too, but then it's funny how easily he was kind of like, oh, he saw where he was misguided. Oh yeah, addicts get the munchies and they come to the food truck and I make a lot of money. Well, if addicts, first of all, addicts wouldn't even have the money to purchase the food. These are people who are low-level drug offenders. Like, oh, okay, I understand. See, Curtis understood, and that was it. CJ, he just kept being an ass the entire episode. So Ella, was more than gracious enough to offer her help as soon as, everything is finalized, and I really like that. So, Laura and Calvin come over, and Christian was chosen as Student of the Year. And and that's another reason I kind of gave this episode, a 6 out of 10. Christian is mentioned a lot, but he's not in the episode whatsoever. So there's an award ceremony soon. I think Laura said towards the end of the month. And as a gift, somebody she knows who's into athletics and whatnot, who helps out at stadiums, an autographed jersey, I believe, from Victor Michaels, who is a running back on the Condors. And the thing is, he's a big name in football, and this is a worn jersey, meaning that it's worth more money. So, Ella wants to set up a party this weekend, and she's like, oh, okay, well, if it's this weekend, I hope Miranda is able to come. Everybody got quiet. Laura and Calvin kind of looked at each other. Ella's like, well, you don't expect me to throw a party for my grandbaby and his mother not be there. And Calvin was like, yeah, she did carry him for 9 months. And I love how, again, everybody, Malik, Curtis, Laura, Calvin, they were like, eh. So they just knew the drama was coming. And it was at that moment of the episode, I'm like, yeah, there's going to be drama coming. So we go over to CJ's house. He's mopping the floor. This was actually pretty funny in terms of the payoff of the scene. Malik has come back from, work, and he wants to get lunch, but he can't go in the kitchen because the floor has been mopped and it is wet. But Malik has no luck with the park permits, due to the fact that he can't reschedule because the park is booked for months. And again, CJ, come on, man. He just keeps on making jokes about, guess you gotta do something else to find money for the weed heads and whatnot. That was really messed up, man. I mean, your son is trying to get this fundraiser put together to help out people in need. This could help out a lot of people, but you're still being an asshole. Alright, so, then Malik comes up with another idea. It's like, oh, what is it? Like, I'm not going to tell you. All you're going to do is make jokes and laugh at me. And I'm like, yeah, that's a very good... I mean, it's sad that Malik had to say that. So, I will admit it was funny when he gets on the floor. He steps on the kitchen and then he falls on the floor. That was pretty funny. That actually made up for the entire scene. But CJ was really messed up. That was really jacked up the way he was acting. Alright, so, we go over to Ella and Curtis again. They're going through, I think Ella's reading like a magazine, like 10 ways to satisfy your partner and whatnot. Not really much to talk about here. But Calvin and Laura come over because tomorrow, I'm guessing it's Friday, because they're like, oh yeah, tomorrow's the party for Christian and whatnot. And Miranda comes over saying that she'll never let her child have that jersey. Apparently, this Victor Michaels is a domestic abuser. I believe Calvin says about, it was 5 years ago. He had 2 different counts of domestic violence, and Laura's like, well, hey, I don't know a lot about sports at all. I apologize. I didn't know anything about, that jersey being linked to someone, who's been violent towards women. And, yeah, she doesn't really care about the jersey being worn. And I'm thinking, well, again, I mentioned this in my trailer breakdown. I think I get it, but just put the jersey away and sell that sucker later on, maybe for the kids' tuition or something, because it's just, I know this might be a weird comparison, but I remember, what was it, last year sometime, when R. Kelly was trending, one of many times he was trending, and it was like his catalog, you know, kind of like the Beatles catalog that Michael Jackson bought. In the same vein, it's like, man, if R. Kelly's catalog was up for sale and I had the money, yeah, I would buy it. I mean, yeah, R. Kelly's personal stuff aside, but I know that's a money-making machine right there. The catalog by itself. And the jersey, though it will be linked to, you know, a guy with domestic violence and whatnot, that jersey could do a lot more good than harm in terms of selling it for profit. That's just the way I think. I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But this is where Miranda loses me. And this is a trend I always point out whenever I notice it. Anytime Miranda is mad about something, more often than not, I'm on her side. More often than not, because I see her point of view, her way of thinking. Hey, I'm his mother, so run things by me before you buy him anything. Well, I ran it by his father, and he said it was fine. You need to just check it, check yourself because you're insecure. And before I move further in their little back and forth, before Ella steps in and makes them go outside, notice that, as always, Miranda will just go off on somebody and then head for the door. That's what she does. She will come in, ruin everybody's good time. Even if two people are just sitting around enjoying their own company, Miranda will come in with some unnecessary drama and then leave. I just always compare that to the end of House of Payne, where Calvin was pleading with her to stay, and what did she do? She walked out the door. And I always feel like that's who she is. She's always a person who will abandon a situation. She'll like speak her mind and then go off without really having a conversation with somebody. So, you know, in response to the insecure comment, Miranda thought she was really saying something by saying, oh, I'm insecure? Well, you're the one who's with my leftovers while I still have options on the menu that I'm looking at. Miranda, if that were true, wouldn't you already have a man or something by now? Just saying. So again, they go back and forth like, oh yeah, you're looking at the menu. Well, you need to get a cup of something to drink because you're thirsty. Ella steps in, says, look, this is the, Miranda, Calvin's with Laura. And by the looks of things, he's going to stay with Laura. Laura, this is the mother of my grandchild. And as long as he's around, she's going to be around too. So you two need to work it out. Again, as far as I can tell, I feel like, Laura was in the right. It was Miranda who started shit. So she's like, you want to take this outside? Not to fight. So they go outside to talk. And if you look at key moments during the episode, it really feels like Ella is still rooting for Miranda. It really just seems that way. I mean, I didn't write this in my notes because it's pretty much, a throw it away line or scene. But, Calvin and Curtis kind of look out the window to see what they're doing out there, to see if they're talking, to see if they're fighting. And, Ella's like, my money's on Miranda. I know how strong she is. And then, going back to the whole, well, yeah, that's the child's mother. It's like, of course I want to invite her to the party. See, this goes back to like the family game night last season where Miranda definitely was out of place. Miranda's presence in the Payne household and family should only be so much, it should only go so far as it relates to her son, aka Curtis and Ella's grandson. If it has nothing to do with that, she doesn't need to be around. So, yeah, her being at her own son's student of the year party, 2 thumbs up, I agree with Ella. In terms of that family game night where she self-inserted herself and then made things super awkward for Laura, and yet she did not apologize at the end of the episode, she can kick rocks. But they go outside and they talk, and like I said before, more often than not, Miranda will have a good point or a good reason why she's feeling upset. But right when I'm like, okay, Miranda, I think you're making a good point, she will circle that shit around to make it about her. Alright, so Laura again apologizes more than I feel like she should have about, the jersey. Look, I didn't know about the whole domestic violence thing. I would never like advertise that to your son or you or Calvin's son. It's just the fact that, I just didn't know. Well, that's the thing. Yeah, you didn't know. You don't know how I raised my child because you didn't ask me. well, yeah, I asked his father. And then she goes on to basically say that, well, that's the thing. When Christian's with Calvin, he has you and him, a mom and father figure. But when he's with me, I can't give him that. And that's essentially what it boils down to. But even so, Laura's like, look, you're right. I could have talked to you, could have squashed the whole Jersey thing. But I can't help the fact that Calvin and I are still together. Yes, you can. And that's the problem. Heifer, what did you want her to do? I mean, yeah, I still don't like how Laura, dumped Calvin, or should I just say abandoned him when you found out in season 9 that, oh my God, you are my work friend's soon-to-be ex-husband and I've been dating for a while. I'm going to leave, even though I just met your parents. And then you randomly go back to the house to talk with Ella to get advice, and it's like, I have no idea why she would even talk to you, given that, hey, the same day you met me, you just abandoned my son. So, what? Yeah, I still don't understand that. So, yeah, Miranda, as much as she tries to say, oh, I'm doing this for my son, I'm doing this for our son, this and that, it's all about her and how she feels inadequate. Meaning, Laura was absolutely right when it came down to insecurities. Seriously. Seriously. Alright, so at the end of the day, it's all about, look, we need to come to an understanding. We need to get along. Miranda has some ground rules. Laura is fine with that. We don't see the conversation, or we don't see the linking of the two women go down. We don't know what the ground rules are. All we know is to come back inside. Everything's good. She's going to give the jersey back in exchange for an autograph of Simone Biles, and I probably said it wrong, but basically the gymnast. And I get what Calvin's saying, like, wait, but she's a gymnast. I mean, nothing not to sound sexist or anything, but I mean, yeah, I think the jersey would have been more money. I'm just saying. But then it's like, Laura and Miranda getting along. She's like, oh yeah, he's always so close-minded. It takes him a while. And Curtis points out, yeah, these two are working together, so there's more love for Christian, but that means more headache for Calvin. And all I'm saying is, despite how good it is to see these two, I guess you could say, get along, so to speak, that shit ain't going to last long. We all know that. It's probably going to be 1 or 2 episodes and Miranda will have something else to bitch about. But, yeah, Miranda was just, I don't know. Alright, so, going over to the Malik stuff again. So, I think Malik was doing like a live stream or a video where he's going over, statistics for those who are put in jail for even low-level drug charges, especially those who are black. And he's giving a really passionate speech. And, on the side of the kitchen, you got Lisa and CJ who are proud. It's like, yeah, I didn't know a lot of these statistics and all until Malik told me about it. So, yeah, that was great. That was great. And at the tail end of the episode, you got CJ telling Malik that, hey, I'm proud of you for thinking on your feet to make this fundraiser a success. You went from not being able to have the park permit to, doing that live, and, the donations went well. And I'm proud of the man you're becoming, because Malik's like, yeah, I learned how to think on my feet from you. And it's like, well, hey, can I borrow $20 till I get paid? Huh, never mind, I spoke too soon about giving you that praise. So that was a good scene, but I still don't think CJ had that moment. I mean, I guess his moment of realization was when he and Lisa were overhearing Malik give his speech going over all the statistics and whatnot. But that, to me, wasn't good enough. I really feel like, CJ needed a moment with his son to say, hey, you really taught me something that I didn't know of. And, when maybe it would have been too preachy, like a PSA, but technically you can even say Malik's scene where he's in front of his computer was that PSA message. But yeah, I don't think CJ really, he didn't come across too good of a person in this episode. Like I said, I love this moment with Malik at the end of the episode. I love Lisa and CJ talking about how proud they are of him. But yeah, CJ was really, a jerk for most of it. Miranda, on the one hand, you can see her point of view, but then on the other, completely unreasonable. And yeah, so 6 out of 10. I know a lot of people might disagree with that score, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And even on Twitter, I was reading on Twitter about House of Payne, you know, the hashtag House of Payne, how people talk about, you know, Miranda and Laura, but what about Calvin messing around with that realtor last season? I don't think she's ever going to be brought up again, sadly, so there's that. But that's all I got for the video. Like I said earlier, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next one.